We're talking New York Giants on the Our Football Network, Our Football YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our 2025 NFL offseason interviews with our OFN insiders, including Ryan Dunleavy from the New York Post, joining us today to talk Giants football. How's it going, Ryan?
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing good. By the way, I just noticed that light in the back of you is kind of bright, but that's okay. I think we'll work on it. See what happens if it's a little lower, or that might work out. Anyway, while Ryan's adjusting his light, we're going to go over a whole bunch of topics here, including who Ryan believes are the top 5 needs for the New York Giants in the offseason via free agency and the draft. The Giants are middle of the road with cap space. How does the draft? I know we're still some time away, but what's the draft capital right now, Ryan?
They have a pick. They have their complete 7-round picks. I believe they might have extra. They might have an extra 6th, but no 7th. I'm not. But they have exactly 7 picks, and they're expected to get an additional 4th-round pick through comps when those are handed out later this month. So I think they'll end up with 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, which is really what matters.
All right. Also, I want to let everybody know the reason why we're doing this is because we're trying to get as much information as possible for next year's Our Lads draft guide. And matter of fact, our first mock draft is next week. We're doing a mock draft show. Dave Syvertson's going to release his first mock draft. John Cooper and Dave Syvertson, our lead scouts here at Our Lads, will be on the air. I'm going to grill them. And obviously, I want to make sure that when I interview as many of our insiders as possible, I have as much of my own ammunition to get into these conversations and to put my own perspective on the offseason. And again, as far as the Giants, Ryan, just taking a look, getting ready for this show, wow. There's just there's an awful lot that the Giants have got to do to get better. But I will say this. There is a little bit of hope in the fact that, yes, they did keep everybody, or the main 2, GM, coach. And I can see why, especially GM, because last year, as far as their draft, I mean, it seemed like they had a pretty good draft. You got Neighbors, you got Theo Johnson, you got Tyrone Tracy, even Drew Phillips played well. Tyler Nubin's a starter. So that's a pretty good draft haul.
I would say 2 things. Number 1, don't confuse starter on a bad team with good player. Giants fans fall into that trap all the time. Like, he's starting. Well, your team's terrible. So, yes, he's starting. But that's not the same as being, a good starter or a starter on most teams. That being said, yes, this was a good draft class. I mean, I think that's what happened in 22 is a lot of the guys were contributing and they were on a winning team. People are like, oh, it's a really good class, and then when they had to become foundational players, they couldn't do it. So, yes, I think for rookies, the 24 draft class was very good. Now they have to get better because if it's the same level of contribution in 2026, then you're going to have a much different view on this class. So, yes, it was a nice first impression. Nobody made a Pro Bowl. Nobody was really in any consideration for anything. So they have to take a big step forward.
But if he would have been healthy, Dexter Lawrence would have easily made the Pro Bowl.
I'm talking about the rookies.
But
the draft class.
That's true. That's true.
No, they have 2 all-pro caliber players. Dexter Lawrence is an all-pro, and Andrew Thomas, if he ever stays healthy, is an all-pro caliber left tackle. The problem is he never stays healthy. Dexter's always healthy, but gets triple teamed. He missed the end of this season. It was his first injury of his 6-year career, but he gets triple teamed inside on literally every play.
And Neighbors is a superstar.
Neighbors is going to be an incredible player. Yes, they just have to. Yeah, the losing is going to wear on him very fast. Saquon Barkley was able to keep his emotions in check as the star player on a bad team here for a long time. Odell Beckham was not, and I think Neighbors might be more Beckham than Barkley.
Okay, well, as I said, it looks like everybody, as far as the front office and the coaching staff, is coming back. But are there going to be any coaching changes at all, or any specific changes to the Giants that we need to keep an eye on?
Well, I think it's a little too early for that because no one got fired. there's still 6 coaching staffs. Vrabel's only beginning to put his together. So I guess 7 coaching staffs that need to be assembled when the head coach vacancies get filled. So, like, could the new Jaguars coach want to take the Giants tight ends coach or cornerbacks coach? Yeah, and in that case, there'll be changes. But there's nothing I'm anticipating now. The big one was owner John Mara was heavily critical of the Giants defense after the season. So that led everybody to think that there was going to be a change in defensive coordinator, especially since Shane Bowen, the Giants defensive coordinator, was Mike Vrabel's defensive coordinator with the Titans for 3 years. So people assumed he would be Vrabel's Patriots defensive coordinator. It does not sound like that will be the case. My colleague Paul Schwartz at the Post has been all over that story, and it sounds like not only is Vrabel not going to make a move for Bowen, but if he did, the Giants would block it anyway. So coordinator-wise, I'm not anticipating anything, though it's possible Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator who had play calling stripped from him, could ask to be let out to go to a play calling offensive coordinator position somewhere. The Giants blocked that last year. I don't know if they would block that 2 years in a row.
All right. So that means what? Daboll's going to take over that job again?
I mean, it depends. I mean, like I said, it depends.
Okay.
I mean, Daboll did it last year. It was terrible. John Maris suggested to Daboll that he not call the plays. Okay. Daboll is reviewing it. It would be a hard sell to give it back to Kafka after you took him away.
Sure.
But if Kafka leaves and they bring in a different offensive coordinator, then maybe that guy would call the plays. I would say Kafka is not going to do it. So if he's back, I would say Daboll. If he's not, then I would say they look for somebody who's an offensive play caller.
Okay, got it. Now let's talk about free agency. And the Giants do not have anybody, as I can see, as far as free agents, their current unrestricted free agents that are like, we can't lose this guy. There are a couple of guys I'm sure they like back. So let's, would that be, and let's talk about the more notable names. You got Slayton, you got Van Routen, who actually, that was a nice trade-off, Van Routen for Glowinski, which basically it seemed like he had a pretty decent season. He's an average player. And I'm not really, I mean, Jackson's a free agent, Pinnock a free agent. So I know Ojolari's a free agent, but he hasn't really produced like they had hoped. So tell me, as far as the Giants' current crop, and Locke, of course, is a free agent. Give me a couple of guys, I don't know, that you think the Giants definitely want to bring back.
So their big selling point is they have 18 of 22 starters under contract. I would argue, so what? They won 3 games.
Yeah.
You won. You can't run those 18 starters back. You need to upgrade those starters and make those starters into backups. But that if they do that, then that should help with their depth. If they turn starters into backups, they haven't had depth here for a long time. That would be a way to have depth, is to turn starters into backups. 18 to 22 starters. The positions that are vacant are quarterback. Obviously, they released Daniel Jones, who was under contract. Drew Lock, who took over as the starter, is a free agent. I don't expect him to return. That's one of the 4 empty spots. Greg Van Roten, the right guard, is the other. One of the other spots. I would be surprised if they don't upgrade that. Now, maybe he comes back to be like a flex guard, a swing guard. I would be, because he's from the area and he knows the offensive line coach well. But I'd be surprised if they handed him the right guard job again. He could probably be looking elsewhere. That's 2 of the 4. Third is Jason Pinnock, the safety. Joe Shane has let 4 better safeties than Jason Pinnock walk out the door because he doesn't believe in paying safeties. So maybe if Pinnock took a basement bargain deal, he would be back. I would expect he'd probably get a better deal somewhere else. Joe Shane's let Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, and Julian Love, Jabril Peppers.
That's a hell of a trio of safeties, by the way.
Yeah, he's let those 3 go, and they cut Logan Ryan. So, so I would say safety's not on his priority list. So that would surprise me. They could probably start Dane Belton and Tyler Nubin. or some other veteran guy of that ilk.
Okay.
And then the fourth guy is the question mark, is Darius Slayton. Like, Darius Slayton's been a good player here for a long time. He's never been a 1,000-yard receiver, but that's more because he's been in, the 30th ranked offense over his 6-year career. He already resigned here once. He had an incredible bond with Daniel Jones. Now that Jones isn't here and he's starting over with a new quarterback, my thought is, why start over here with a new quarterback? Start over on a team where you can win with a new quarterback. He's very valuable here because Daboll's offense is complex, and he is able to simplify it for the Jalen Hyatts and Malik Neighbors and other young players in the room. So he's almost like a coach in the huddle. So I think that is very valuable. He tried to get an extension out of the Giants in the spring last year. They didn't give it to him. He said that didn't make him hold a grudge. I would be surprised if he didn't remember that come free agent time. And, why should a tie go to the Giants if they had a chance for you last year and they didn't want you? So I would guess he's going to move on. Like I said, been a good guy and a good player here for a long time. I would guess the Giants are going to look for a different number 2 receiver, and Slayton's going to look for a place where he can show that he can put up big stats with a big quarterback.
Okay. And they have also a lot to fix as far as special teams. Is Gano, is he like a cap casualty?
I would guess he'd be a cap casualty. I don't have the number in front of me, but I know I think they could save 3.5 or something like that. By cut.
Actually, it's almost 5, I think.
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I have his cap number pretty much around that area. Yeah.
So Gano would be 5.6 to be on the team, or 2.5.
2.5, yeah. So
not to be on the team.
$3 million difference. Okay.
Yeah. So I would think he'll be cut or have his contract reworked. And then Casey Kreider and the long snapper and Jamie Gillen, the punter, are both free agents. They go year to year with the Giants. I wouldn't be surprised if they're back. They always sign 1-year contracts. So like, if you have the same special teams coordinator and they both had fine seasons, they'll probably just resign them both to 1-year deals, though I guess they could explore elsewhere.
Okay. Now, what about, we just mentioned Gano as a possible casualty. Anybody else? Nunez Roches?
Yeah,
the team can save some money.
He's the other one, cap casualty wise. Now look, defensive tackle is one of the worst positions on the team. So that is certainly you'd be weakening an already weakness by cutting him. He's started pretty much every game this year. You signed him last year before the 23 season to be your 5th defensive tackle. This year he was your number 2 defensive tackle. So he was playing above his head and looked like it. I think he's fine in a 3rd or 4th role, but you don't want to pay somebody in your 3rd or 4th role a $5 million cap hit when you can cut him for $1.4 million. So I would guess he won't be back, but he's a good leader too. So maybe they try to rework that.
And the only other one that sticks out to me, but it's a much higher dead money deal, is Singletary. And of course, Tracy had a really good rookie season, even though they could use depth. By the way, and I'm not sure if you've dived into this yet. We've talked about this quite a bit, and we'll continue to just pump this up. This is going to be one hell of a running back draft class, not just first round, second round, but I mean, all over the draft. Going to be able to get some really good running backs. But Singletary's a veteran. There's a $6 million dead money deal there, which is not just cheap money to give away. But do you think he'll be back?
Well, I mean, you can't cut him, right? It's $6 million dead and 6.25 to bring him back. So you're saving $250,000 to cut him. So you can't cut him. I mean, could you squeeze him for a pay cut? Maybe. I would guess he'll just be back. Joe Shane, a lot of GMs are like this, but Joe Shane particularly does not like to admit when he made a mistake. And that was we can get a running back cheap. We don't need Saquon Barkley. That was his and Brian Daboll's pick. So I can't see a situation where they give up on him after 1 year. So okay. I would think he'll be back, and the contract says he'll be back. So that would be my guess.
All right. Now let's go ahead and get your top 5 needs. It's up to you if you'd like to do them in order or not. We can reshuffle them later. I'll let you begin.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking me to pick just 5. Like that doesn't feel. This is one of the 3 worst teams. This is one of the 3 worst teams in the league. So
Yeah.
I'm writing them down as we speak right now.
Okay.
See.
I mean, do we even have to?
I'll give them to you, and then I'll rank them after it. So
Okay.
so number 1, far and away, is quarterback. Okay,
Yes.
like 1, and then nothing else is even in the same ballpark. They have no quarterbacks on their roster right now. They'll re-sign Tommy DeVito to a non-guaranteed exclusive rights free agent contract. He'll be the only one on the team in March.
Okay.
He obviously can't be number 1. He probably shouldn't be number 2.
Yeah.
So they're going to go quarterback hunting. They'll check the veteran market. Maybe they'll shop for Sam Darnold. Maybe they'll shop for Justin Fields. Maybe they'll shop for the annual bridge guy, the Jacoby Brissett's, the Jameis Winstons, the Andy Daltons. They'll pick someone high in the draft, whether that's 3, whether that's trading down from 3, trading up from 3 in the second round. 35 picks or whatever their second round pick is will not go by without the Giants picking a quarterback. One of their first 2 round picks will be a quarterback. And my guess is they'll do both. My guess is they'll bring in a high level veteran, say Justin Fields and Shedeur Sanders, and let them battle it out. That's need number 1, and it's not close. These 2 guys, Shane and Dable, are on the hot seat, and the only way they could save it is to say, look, we got a quarterback of the future. Let us develop him.
Okay. So you think that even though, so there's going to be a lot of talk for the next little while until, we get more information on these quarterbacks. But, a lot of people are pretty firm in their belief that both Ward and Sanders they're just not top 5 players. But we know the NFL and general managers, and they're always going to overdraft quarterbacks. Is that what you see here? Is that maybe another one? Maybe the Titans won't do it, but the Giants in their situation, if they can get one of these quarterbacks, they're definitely going to go get one of them.
Yes.
Okay.
The Giants will not. If Ward or Sanders is there, whoever they like better, they will not get past 3. So, I mean, that's my consensus from talking to the scouts I talked to around the league, is that they're both first-round caliber prospects, not necessarily top 5 caliber prospects. But I think we've seen enough now that push comes to shove, Ward and Sanders will be top 5 picks, if not 1, 2. I think the Giants' best bet is that they don't have to trade up for one of the 2 quarterbacks. One of the 2 slips into their hands at 3. So I think that's almost a lock that would happen. So,
all right. Go ahead with your need list.
That's one.
It's an easy one. Yes.
That's easy. I'm jotting down the other things I think they need, and then I guess I'll come back to the order of them. They need a wide receiver 2, so a starting receiver, a starting right guard, a number 1 corner, a starting safety, 2 starting defensive tackles, a swing tackle, and probably a starting tight end. A third edge rusher, because they're going to lose Ojulari, a third edge rusher, and that is where I'd leave it. But, I mean, that's a lot. So I would say number 2 to me is a cornerback 1.
Yes.
Because it's obviously a very important position. Deonte Banks played reasonably well as a rookie number 2 corner in man. He was a disaster this season as the number 1 corner in a zone. Sounds like they're gonna run back the same scheme. Banks told me at the end of the season that he thinks that's a good thing. He'll be much more comfortable in the scheme. I thought he might want to change back to more man. He seems to think he'll be able to pick up where he left off. That'll help him. But I think the number 1 thing that'll help him is sliding in a number 1 corner and taking pressure off him, so he's not traveling with the guy. So
makes sense. Okay.
I would say corner 1 is their number 2 need. 3, I guess I'll say right guard. The Giants' offensive line has been a problem here for 15 years. They never seem to get it right. This year was pretty close. This was, I would say, the closest they've come to getting it right in a long time. And then Andrew Thomas got hurt and it fell apart. So they can go into next season with Andrew Thomas at left tackle, Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, John Runyon Jr. at left guard, John Michael Schmitz, who I don't think, I mean, you cannot pencil him in as a starter. You need to bring in a high-level veteran center and let them compete. I'm not saying you bring in like a $10 million a year center, but you bring in somebody with 50 career starts at center and let them compete and have a true competition. And then right guard, I would not hand that job to Evan Neal, the former first-round pick at tackle who's been a bust, or Josh Izudu, the former third-round pick at tackle who's been a bust. I would probably sign someone. Going in-house to that would scare me just because of the Giants' track record on the offensive line is so bad. I'd want a sure thing. So I guess I'd put right guard third. Fourth, I'll put defensive tackle times 2. Like, you need 2 if you're going to play a 3-4, it's Dexter Lawrence, and especially if you're going to cut Raheem Nunez-Roches, you need 2 starting guys. Like, I'm very wary that you're going to tell me DJ Davidson or Jordan Riley or Elijah Riley or somebody that they have on one of the young players that they have on this roster is ready to start. I'm very suspect of that. So I would say at least one high caliber defensive tackle to play with Dexter Lawrence, maybe 2 mids, maybe a high level one. And then you try to force in a Jordan Riley as a young player, but they need to get some of those triple teams off of Dexter Lawrence. So I'd pick that 4th. And then 5th, I guess, I'm going to say, they have a hole at starting safety. I'm going to leave that one off for now.
Another wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm going to say wide receiver 2. I'm going to say I have more faith in Dane Belton to start at safety than I do in Jalen Hyatt to start at receiver. So by that, I'm going to leave off starting safety on the top 5 needs. That'd probably be 6. And I'm going to make wide receiver 2 the number 5 need because I think Darius Slayton will be gone. And you cannot throw the ball to Malik Neighbors 160 times a year and Wan'Dale Robinson 130 times a year. You need somebody else to take the pressure off of those guys. So I would say go out and get a outside receiver, some guy who can give you 700, 800 yards, a veteran type guy who's done it, a smart guy, a team guy who's going to be okay with coming in probably 3rd on the team in targets, who's been around the block, could learn the offense quickly. But yes, I would say wide receiver 2 is probably my 5th biggest need.
Sort of like what Carolina has with Thielen, a guy like that.
Yeah, I would have to know how much Thielen's inside outside, but yeah, somebody like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So cornerback number 1, right guard, a couple of defensive tackles, especially if Nunez-Roches is cut. If not, if he stays, then maybe just 1 defensive tackle and a wide receiver number 2 to play outside with Neighbors with Robinson in the slot.
Yeah. And
okay.
Then you have
safety
safety 6, swing tackle, 3rd edge rusher, and maybe a starting tight end.
All right. Talk about a couple of these things then. So tight end. So Johnson, I mentioned him. He was a 4th-round draft pick, played a lot, got injured late, but still ended up leading the team, the tight ends and snaps. So he definitely played as a rookie, which is good on a bad team.
And he was coming on before he got injured. He was
okay.
His best football was his last football, which is a good thing. But he's going to be coming off a Liz Frank foot injury, and he's certainly not scaring teams. Like he's not. It's not like, oh, we got a matchup nightmare with Theo Johnson. He was a productive player, but his rookie year looked a lot like Daniel Bellinger's rookie year in 2022, and Daniel Bellinger didn't keep going up. He leveled off. So you got to see what happens with Theo. Ideally, he becomes a red zone threat. He's a big body.
And as I said, with running backs, the other position that is got a dearth of talent, as a wealth of talent, is tight end. I mean, there are going to be some really good tight ends and a lot of tight ends coming in this year's draft. So if you need a running back or a tight end, sort of like the Cowboys, that's what everybody was saying. If you need a running back, there are enough running backs. Well, Jerry Jones didn't get one anyway. But so the point is, though, a good general manager will make sure if he needs a running back or a tight end, this is the draft class to get it. Okay. So then you mentioned the defensive line. I also noticed, again, bad team, but Elijah Chapman, he was a rookie free agent that played a lot. He got 423 snaps. Is that a good depth find, or nah, he's just lucky he was playing because the team wasn't very good?
Both. He was playing too much because the team wasn't very good, but he should be on a 53-man roster. So yeah, that's a good depth find. That's an undrafted free agent. He was actually a rookie minicamp tryout who impressed. Didn't even get signed. He had to try out and make the team. Yeah, that's a good find. He should be on a 53-man roster. Credit to the scouts on that one, but he shouldn't be playing 400 snaps. He should be like a third down pass rush specialist.
And talk about the rookie Phillips. This is a player that still, because he's on the Giants and it wasn't a top draft pick, nobody knows anything about him. And he actually played a lot. Yeah, and appeared to play pretty decent. So, yeah, how did that work out?
He had a very good year. Not a ton of ball production. I think he had maybe one forced fumble and one pick, which was his first pick since high school.
Okay.
But he played pretty sticky man coverage and in the slot, and he was a good run. He was good in run support. Giants are high on him. Pro Football Focus had him something like the 6th overall corner, not rookie, not slot, something like the 6th overall corner in the league from Pro Football Focus. That felt a little high, but certainly I have no problem penciling him in as the starting slot corner next year and expecting good things.
Okay. Let's see. Give me some other players then, if you can. I know there are a lot of them. So give me any developing players on the team that you think, may not be this year, but it could be in the next couple of years that you could see potentially grabbing one of these starting spots if they continue to develop.
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that I would upgrade almost all their young players.
Okay.
I mean, Tyrone Tracy's already the starting running back. He had a very good year. I expect him to get better and better. It's only his second year playing running back. He was mostly a college receiver. So once he learns the finer points, I think he'll be a very good running back, but he's already a starter. I mentioned Drew Phillip. Tyler Nubin played almost every snap before he had a season-ending injury. He'll be penciled in as a starting safety. Like, they're young players that are promising. We're already playing this year. There's like nobody waiting in the wings for a 3-14 team. Like, if you could play, you were on the field.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, I guess the guy they thought Elijah Riley, not Elijah Riley. He was a defensive tackle. Elijah Garcia was a guy they were high on at the end of the year. Was only playing because of injuries, and they thought
the kid from Rice.
You got me, man. They thought he played well the last 5 games of the season. They thought they found something there. Like, when you're playing those 5 games, yes, he is from Rice, and you're playing those 5 games, and it's like you're a mash unit and whatnot. Yeah. That's where coaches really dig in to find out, like, hey, do we have something? And that was a guy they thought showed something at the end of last year. So, like, maybe they get one high-level defensive tackle and try to make Elijah Garcia the other defensive tackle starter.
Okay. Yeah, I remember him because I noticed him at Rice and thought he was an interesting player that might be able to make the NFL. All right. So next up, let's by the way, we mentioned a couple of the injuries. Were there any other key injuries on players that did not get a lot of playing time this year that will be filling important roles? You talked about Lawrence. Newman was banged up late. Johnson was banged up late.
The whole team was hurt by the end of last year.
Who's that?
They were pretty healthy for the first 10 games, and they were 2-8. And then after that, the whole team got hurt. So
okay.
Andrew Thomas only played 6 or 7 games, the stud left tackle.
How about John Runyon? Is he
Ron Runyon played 12 games or so. He was okay. I mean, I wouldn't say he was better than Ben Bredesen, who they let go for much cheaper to the Bucks. He was okay. I wouldn't say he lived up to a 3-year, $30 million contract, but he wasn't an issue. He was a fine, steady left guard. I'm sure, but he wasn't banged up. I'm injured. Bobby Okereke missed the last 5 games or so with a back issue. He said he'll be ready for OTAs, but okay. I mean, they were pretty healthy and they were 2-8, and that's when the injuries started piling up.
All right. And then let's see. Also, are there any as far as the fans are concerned, and of course I know how the fans can be up in New York. Are they happy that I know I should have started off that. Are they happy that or they accepted that the Giants kept the regime, or do they want a complete new GM and head coach?
No, it's wildly unpopular that they kept everybody. Wildly unpopular. So, I mean, yeah, you can find people that wanted to keep them. Actually, what was unusual, I thought, is this would never happen in a million years, but I think Brian Dable had more fan support to stay than the GM, but you can't fire the GM and keep the coach. That's never going to happen. So, but I think there were more fans willing to forgive Dable than Shane because they're smart. New York fans are smart. They know what they're watching, and they knew they were watching a bad team. So they weren't going to criticize Dable as well. Now, look, Dable's offense was unimaginative and didn't score enough points. But as far as like being that's him as a play caller. As far as being a head coach, you were asking him to work magic, and it was not a very good roster. So no, but I don't think general consensus is that it's wildly unpopular that they're here, mostly out of fear of what them being on the hot seat is going to do. Are they going to go on a crazy spending spree to preserve their jobs? Are they going to trade future draft assets to make sure they get their quarterback? Whenever you're on the hot seat going into a year, it makes for a battle of what's best for the team and what's best for me.
Who's really the individual that's in charge of what's going on?
Joe Shane.
Okay, so he's definitely the man. He's been given the opportunity to do what he needs to do. Does he have to check with anybody first in order to make any moves?
I mean, him and Daboll say they're on the same page all the time. They take they always make it seem like every decision was a joint decision. Obviously, we know that's not true. And then, the major ones, they run by the owner, John Mara, like letting Saquon go. But John Mara hated that idea and he let it happen. So he clearly doesn't interfere. Giants fans love conspiracy theories that John Mara, forced the Giants to keep Daniel Jones. That he didn't. That was a Joe Shane, backed into a corner. That's the decision he made. They love to blame John Mara for having his fingers all over the football product, but it's Joe Shane's product. And, he checks major moves with the owner, but he doesn't have to run. We're going to sign this, cornerback slot corner by the owner. So.
Did you see enough in Daniel Jones to lead you to believe that he's got the talent to maybe be a reclamation project similar to Sam Darnold?
No, I don't. I never thought Daniel Jones was very good. I would never have signed him to a 4-year, $160 million contract. I think he can bounce around the league for a while and be like a, Ryan Tannehill type guy, but where, maybe he's starting, maybe he can start for a playoff team that has, good pieces elsewhere and be a caretaker.
Like Trent Dilfer.
Yeah. Or maybe he can put up some big numbers for a bad team that's just airing it out like he did as a rookie. But could he be a impact player for a Super Bowl team? Could he do what Sam Darnold did? No, I don't think so.
All right. And
he never stays healthy.
Were the Giants in last year's draft, did they have any connection with JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, I mean they did. They did tons of work on him. They went to they had an individual workout with him at Michigan. They brought him into their pro day. I mean, they brought him into their facility for a facility visit. They met with him at the combine. They went to his pro day. Yeah, they did a ton of work on him.
So if the Vikings were to sign Sam Darnold long-term and they were open to trading McCarthy, would the Giants be one of those teams that would possibly be interested?
I mean, it would depend on the price probably, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, if they're asking for number 3 overall, then I would say the Giants. I would probably do that, but I don't think the Giants would do that. I just think I wrote a big article on this for the Post. If anybody watching is really interested in this, they should check. I did all angles of this for the Post on Friday. Yeah, whether the Giants should do it, the Vikings should do it, what the cost would be. I think the Giants should do it. But that is just me. If it was a second round pick, I think the Giants would be very interested.
Yeah, like I completely agree. That sounds like something that is all going to depend. Every general manager is going to be different. And I believe, is this the one you're talking about here? Is this the one? Giants trade deadline decisions on homegrown stars? No. Or are we looking for another one?
No, I did a J.J. McCarthy specific.
Oh, it's specifically J.J. McCarthy. Okay. No.
There you go.
Oh, where did I hit it? Right here it is. Okay. There it is. All right. So we'll have a link in the description, by the way, for this article. So anybody that wants to read it can check it out. Ryan, I really appreciate your time as always. Hopefully we'll have you on because you're going to be heading to the Super Bowl in New Orleans. You're going to be covering the Super Bowl for the Post. And I hope we'll get an opportunity to talk to you while you're there. And that'll be over on ProLine TV, the ProLine TV channel. That we have a lot of talk as far as breaking down the games, handicapping and such. So, yeah, otherwise, what are you doing right now for the Post? Are you just everything's about the draft for the Giants or a little bit of everything?
Giants draft and free agency talk, Jets coaching search talk, and championship game. Next week, I'll be at either the AFC or the NFC championship. So,
any inside info on the Jets?
I don't think it's inside info. I think it's what most people are saying, that Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores are probably the 2 front runners for the head coaching job, but they're going to hire a GM first and let him kind of dictate the second round of interviews. So who's the GM? I don't have a great feel for that, but whoever that is, I think I'll be pushed towards Glenn or Flores, but ultimately that person will, I think, have the final say. So like if it's Mike Bergonzi or the Chiefs assistant GM, then maybe Matt Nagy comes back into the fold, or Spags.
Okay, that could be interesting, but we'll see. This might take a while, especially if it's for a Kansas City connection. So, Ryan, thank you very much as always. Links in the description for everything regarding Ryan Dunleavy, and we'll hope to talk to him real soon again, especially if there's any major news that comes out between now and the draft, free agency, trades, or anything like that. If not, we'll definitely talk to him with a recap of the offseason and the NFL draft. So once again, Ryan, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.